They never wanted you to know this about shadow work. They never wanted you to see that the darkness you've tried to run from, the parts of yourself that you hide behind masks, behind polite smiles, behind the carefully curated version of who you are, they are the doorway, the secret key, the weapon, and the liberation all at once. They never told you that the pain you feel, the rage, the shame, the longing, the envy, the doubt, the small humiliations you have carried for decades, they are not enemies, they are not flaws. They are the raw material of your power, the primal gold that, when refined, shapes the soul into something unbreakable. You have been trained to fear yourself. You have been told that being angry is wrong, that wanting more is greedy, that doubt is a sin. Civilization has painted you with invisible lines. Be polite, be small, do not disrupt, do not reach too high. And yet, within you, the shadow waits. The shadow knows the truth that polite society will never teach you, that the pieces of yourself you deny are the pieces that can make you infinite, that the anger you bury, the pain you smother, the desires you disown, they are your maps, your guides, your compass through the wilderness of the human psyche. Carl Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." And this is what they never wanted you to know, that the path to freedom is not to chase the light. The path to freedom is to descend into the darkness, to walk willingly into the forest of your own fears, to stare into the mirror of yourself and recognize the parts you have denied, and in doing so, claim the sovereignty that no one can take from you. You think you are safe by staying small, by conforming, by being agreeable. You think the world will reward you if you avoid conflict, if you hide your fire. But safety is a lie, and comfort is a cage. And the shadow, the parts of you you have been taught to reject, holds the key to breaking that cage. It whispers truths that civilized voices will never speak, that you are stronger than your excuses, wiser than your fears, more capable than the sum of the doubts you carry. Psyphoria comes first, the awareness that your world is not what it seems, that there is a current beneath the surface of your life, an energy of hidden forces, unspoken motives, silent manipulations. The world is a theater, and most play their roles without ever questioning the script. But you, by stepping into the shadow, you begin to see the backstage, the wires, the shadows behind the curtains. And with that sight comes clarity. The mind that embraces shadow work learns to navigate the currents of people, of society, of life itself, with the precision of a surgeon and the patience of a monk. Your mindset begins to shift. You realize that nothing outside you can truly harm you, not words, not betrayals, not ridicule. Every wound inflicted upon you is already a part of your landscape. Every betrayal, every slight, every loss is a raw material for transformation. Discipline becomes your ally, not the discipline that is external, imposed by bosses, schools, or governments, but the inner discipline that commands your mind, your thoughts, your emotions. Shadow work is not about being nice, it is about being sovereign. It is about mastering yourself before you attempt to master anything else. Belief transforms. Not belief in luck, not belief in chance, not belief in what others tell you is possible, but belief in the inevitability of your own evolution. That the darkness is not your enemy, but your teacher. And if you dare to walk into it willingly, it will sculpt you into a being capable of seeing truth where others see illusion, capable of walking through fire unscathed, capable of holding a mind and soul that are untouchable by chaos. Vision emerges next. Once you acknowledge the shadow, you stop chasing hollow dreams that society hands you like candy. You begin to see the paths that are authentic, the challenges that are meaningful, the victories that matter. Purpose is no longer a word written in a self-help book. It is the very shape of your life, born from the acceptance of all that you are, light and dark, rage and love, fear and courage. Action becomes decisive. Every hesitation, every self-doubt, every distraction falls away when you are guided by shadow wisdom. You act not because others are watching, not because you seek validation, not because you fear failure, but because in the darkness you have recognized the raw code of your own existence. You do what must be done because you have seen the consequences of inaction, because you have known the hollowness of avoidance, because you have stared into the abyss and chosen not just to survive, but to rise. Gratitude, surprisingly, comes next. Not gratitude for superficial blessings, but gratitude for the shadow itself, for the pain, for the struggle, for the parts of yourself that once felt shameful. Because without them, there would be no depth, no character, no inner fire. Without facing your shadow, you are a candle flickering in the wind. With it, you become a torch that burns steadily through the storm. Adaptability and resilience solidify. The world will not stop testing you. The people who feared your awakening will attempt to pull you back. The systems that thrive on complacency will try to ensnare you. The patterns you have grown up with will cry for your return. But you are no longer a victim. You bend without breaking. You shift without surrendering. You absorb and respond without losing your center. Every trial becomes a forge, every resistance a teacher, every obstacle a stepping stone. Learning becomes infinite. Once you embrace shadow work, you realize that mastery is endless, not because the world changes, but because you do. Your understanding deepens, your perception sharpens, your insight pierces through illusion. You see motivations, patterns, and truths that others cannot even recognize. You have entered a game played in silence, observed by few, mastered by fewer, and yet the rewards are beyond measure. And finally, the culmination of shadow work is nothing external. It is not wealth, fame, or power. It is the quiet, unshakable knowledge that no one can touch your inner fortress. You have descended into your own darkness and emerged whole. You have faced the chaos, the shame, the fear, the rage, the longing, the emptiness. And you have not only survived, you have transmuted it into strength, clarity, vision, and unbreakable presence. They never wanted you to know this because they feared what happens when a man or woman fully integrates their shadow. He becomes untouchable, she becomes unstoppable, the soul becomes sovereign. The world can scream, the world can punish, the world can attempt to control, but your inner kingdom is yours alone, defended not by walls of stone, but by the steel of understanding, the fire of self-knowledge, the immovable weight of shadow-won wisdom. And now you see it, you see what they tried to hide. The darkness is not a curse, it is a gift. The pain is not an enemy, it is a compass. The fear is not a jailer, it is the key. You carry within you every weapon you will ever need, every strength you will ever require, every truth that will ever free you. You are whole, you are sovereign, you are alive. And nothing and no one will ever control the destiny you have claimed by embracing the shadow within. You feel it now, don't you? That quiet tremor in your chest, that weight in your shoulders that has lingered for years, finally easing, not because the world has changed, but because you have looked into the dark corridors of your own psyche and seen what lurks there. Not with fear, not with shame, not with hesitation, but with recognition, with acceptance, with the fierce clarity of someone who has decided that nothing, absolutely nothing, will ever hold them hostage again. The truth of shadow work is relentless. It does not cater to comfort. It does not allow for excuses. It demands courage in its purest form, the courage to see every hidden corner, every suppressed impulse, every inconvenient truth about yourself and say, yes, I own this. I am responsible. I am accountable. I am whole. And in that act of ownership, a metamorphosis occurs. The fear that once shackled you, the anxiety that once clouded your vision, the self-doubt that whispered you were never enough, all of it begins to crumble like brittle stone under the weight of unflinching acknowledgement. And this is where most men and women fail. They are taught to seek light, to seek approval, to seek validation from the outside world. But the shadow teaches you that the only light that matters is the one that rises from within, that every approval you have ever chased is a hollow echo compared to the unshakable presence of self-acceptance, that every person who has tried to diminish you, every betrayal, every slight, every injustice, they are powerless now because you have stepped into a sovereignty that no one can touch. You begin to notice the patterns in your life, the cycles of failure, the repeated disappointments, the subtle manipulations of people around you. And instead of blaming, instead of cowering, instead of repeating them unconsciously, you begin to see. Awareness becomes a sword, insight becomes armor, and the world so long a labyrinth of traps and illusions becomes a field you navigate with precision. Machiavelli's cunning, Nietzsche's courage, Aldous Huxley's insight, all pale in comparison to the power of a mind that knows itself fully, that has walked into the abyss and returned intact, luminous, whole. Every day becomes a laboratory, every challenge a test, every human interaction a mirror, reflecting both your light and your shadow. And the lessons are brutal if you avoid them, merciless if you hide, but infinitely rewarding if you confront them. Resilience is not merely bouncing back, it is evolving forward. Adaptability is not bending to survive, it is bending to master. And every step you take, every choice you make, every thought you entertain shadow work ensures that they are guided by an inner compass that cannot be deceived, cannot be shaken, cannot be derailed. Gratitude transforms into something fierce. You are grateful for the betrayals that sharpened your instincts, for the isolation that forced introspection, for the rage that forged your boundaries, for the despair that demanded reinvention. Shadow work turns pain into insight, fear into strategy, weakness into discipline, and hesitation into decisive action. You begin to walk through the world like a man or woman who has nothing to prove, because you have already proven everything to yourself. And here is the secret they never wanted you to know. The shadow is not just about darkness. It is not about the parts of you society labels bad or unworthy. It is about totality. The shadow is the unclaimed energy, the latent potential, the parts of yourself you have disowned because the world told you they were unacceptable. When you embrace it, when you bring these pieces into the light of consciousness, you do not become monstrous, you become whole. You become a vessel for a power that cannot be contained, for clarity that cannot be bought, for insight that no authority, no institution, no other human being can dictate. And in this wholeness comes freedom. Freedom from the manipulations of others, freedom from the relentless expectation to conform, freedom from the constant, exhausting quest for external validation, freedom from shame, from guilt, from the inner critic that has whispered not enough since childhood. You step into a world where your mind is your fortress, your soul is your armor, your self-awareness is your invincibility. You are untouchable, not in arrogance, but in sovereignty, not in isolation, but in unshakable authenticity. So now, when you walk into a room, it is not to be seen, it is not to be validated, it is not to be approved. You walk in as a force, as a presence, as a being who has faced the abyss and emerged not broken, not diminished, not hollow, but luminous, whole, and alive. And every shadow you have ever feared, every secret you have ever hidden, every part of yourself you were told to reject, they bow before the courage it took to integrate them. They bow to the mastery of a soul that has looked inward with honesty and emerged sovereign. You are now the master of your own life. You are no longer at the mercy of circumstance, of people, of societal illusion. You are the architect of your reality, the captain of your mind, the guardian of your spirit. And in this truth, you find a serenity and power that cannot be taken, cannot be bought, cannot be diminished. You are whole, you are unbreakable, you are free. And the world, which once sought to shape and limit you, now exists merely as a canvas for the totality of who you are, shadow embraced, power awakened, destiny claimed. You have entered the circle that they feared, walked the path that was hidden, faced the darkness that was forbidden. And in doing so, you have discovered the greatest truth of all, that nothing and no one has ever held power over you except the parts of yourself you refuse to see. But now you have seen them. Now you have claimed them. Now you are infinite. And so, with shadow fully embraced, with darkness transformed into light, with pain alchemized into power, you step forward into the world no longer as a victim, no longer as a wanderer, no longer as a man or woman seeking permission. You step forward as a sovereign being, armed with every lesson, every insight, every shard of self you once hid, now fused into a weapon of clarity, a fortress of understanding, a life unshakable. The abyss no longer threatens you, for you have walked into it willingly. The chaos no longer ensnares you, for you move with the knowledge of its patterns. And the world, vast, unpredictable, unforgiving, cannot diminish you, because the kingdom within is unassailable, luminous, eternal. You have claimed what they never wanted you to find. You are whole, you are sovereign, you are awake. And now, with the shadow fully integrated, you begin to notice something extraordinary. The world no longer dictates your emotions, your reactions, your sense of self. The people who once drained you, whose words once pierced through your confidence, whose approval you once craved, you see them clearly now, as actors in their own drama, powerless to touch the core of your being. You are no longer a participant in someone else's script. You are the author of your own narrative, and every word you write, every decision you make, resonates with intention, with clarity, with unshakable purpose. This is the liberation that shadow work offers. It is not about perfection. It is not about escaping pain. It is not about moralizing your life. It is about sovereignty. It is about understanding that the darkness within you is not a prison, but a source of immeasurable power. The parts of yourself you feared, the impulses you were ashamed of, the anger, the desire, the jealousy, the fear, they are not enemies. They are signals, raw energy, guides pointing toward untapped reservoirs of strength, creativity, and resilience. When you begin to navigate the world from this place, everything changes. You no longer react impulsively to provocation, for provocation itself is meaningless against someone who has faced the chaos inside and emerged whole. You no longer seek approval because you know that self-validation is the only validation that lasts. You no longer chase fleeting pleasures because the satisfaction you crave is found in mastery over yourself, in the alchemy of shadow into light. And then you start to see the subtle layers of manipulation in the world, how society tries to mold you, how institutions seek to chain you with fear and conformity, how relationships can become traps if boundaries are not maintained. With shadow integrated, you see these patterns clearly, not with paranoia, not with cynicism, but with discernment. You move through life like a predator in the jungle of human behavior, calm, aware, unstoppable, not because you seek to dominate, but because nothing can dominate you. You begin to appreciate the beauty of resilience. Every failure, every heartbreak, every moment of despair is no longer a mark against you. It is a sculptor's hand shaping your mind, your character, your spirit. The lessons hidden in suffering are no longer hidden. They are written in bold letters across the canvas of your life, and you read them, learn from them, integrate them. This is the essence of mastery, to take everything that was once a weakness and turn it into fuel, into insight, into the unbreakable architecture of your soul. You realize that discipline is no longer external, it is internal. It is not about following rules imposed by society, but about aligning every thought, every action, every intention with your authentic self. When your mind is disciplined, it is unassailable. When your actions are aligned, they are irresistible. When your soul is awake, it is unstoppable. And in that alignment, life itself begins to flow differently. Opportunities that once felt scarce now present themselves naturally. Obstacles that once seemed insurmountable now bend beneath your focus and determination. You are no longer fighting the world, you are navigating it with precision, with power, with mastery. And gratitude becomes profound. Not the shallow gratitude of social convention, but the deep, almost sacred gratitude for every trial, every struggle, every shadow you have faced. Gratitude for the parts of yourself you once rejected, for the people who challenged you, for the betrayals that forced growth. Gratitude becomes your compass, guiding you through chaos with grace, turning adversity into a teacher and fear into an instrument of strength. In this state, adaptability is no longer reactive. It is creative. You bend without breaking, shift without hesitation, flow without losing form. You see life as a canvas, chaos as a palette, and yourself as the artist of an unfolding masterpiece. Nothing is wasted, nothing is random, everything is meaningful, because you have aligned your consciousness with the deeper patterns of existence, the timeless truths that govern human behavior, nature, and the cosmos itself. And so resilience becomes natural. You do not simply endure challenges, you transform them into accelerants for growth. You do not fear change, you embrace it as the necessary force that propels you toward your highest potential. You do not cling to comfort, you move freely, knowing that true power is forged in the fires of discomfort, uncertainty, and relentless self-confrontation. Learning becomes infinite. Every experience, every person, every encounter is a mirror reflecting a hidden truth about yourself. You listen not just with your ears, but with your mind, your heart, your intuition. You absorb wisdom from the world around you, integrating it seamlessly into your being. History, philosophy, literature, science, they are not mere subjects. They are tools, maps, and mirrors that allow you to navigate the labyrinth of existence with mastery. And as this transformation unfolds, the final truth emerges. Freedom is not given, it is claimed. Power is not inherited, it is earned. Sovereignty is not a title, it is a state of being. You have claimed it. You have earned it. You have become it. Nothing and nobody can hurt you because you have built a mind, a heart, a spirit that is unbreakable, unshakable, unstoppable. You are the culmination of every trial you have faced, every shadow you have integrated, every lesson you have learned. You are no longer defined by the world, by others, by circumstance. You define yourself, you define your reality. And in this truth, there is nothing more terrifying and nothing more liberating than the awareness that you are finally, completely, undeniably free. And now, at this precipice of your own becoming, understand this. The world may rage, people may scheme, chaos may unfold, yet none of it can touch you, not the insults, not the betrayals, not the pain that once haunted your nights. You have walked through the fire of your own darkness, faced the truths you once denied, and emerged not as a broken soul, but as a force of nature. You are whole, you are sovereign, you are untouchable. This is not arrogance, it is clarity. This is not cruelty, it is power refined by wisdom. This is not escape, it is mastery. Every step you take now is guided by the light of your own self-knowledge. Every word you speak carries the weight of authenticity. Every choice you make is an echo of a life lived without compromise. And in this space, you are finally free. Free from fear, free from doubt, free from the invisible chains of expectation, manipulation, and shadowed influence. Nothing and nobody will ever hurt you again, because you have claimed the ultimate victory. You have become the unassailable architect of your own soul. Stand in this truth. Feel its power. Let it radiate through every cell of your being. You are not merely surviving. You are awake. You are alive. You are infinite. And the world will bend to the strength of your self-possession, because nothing and no one can ever break a soul that has made peace with its own darkness and risen into its full, unstoppable light. This is your inheritance. This is your revolution. This is your awakening. You are whole. You are unbreakable. You are free.